Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to show you 15 JRPGs no one seems to care about. Are these games worth caring? Well, you're gonna have to be the judge of that. Now, this is not a re-upload, but it is a compilation of the 3 videos that I did 2 years ago called JRPGs no one cares about. There were 3 videos, 5 JRPGs on each, so this is just a compilation of these 3 videos. And the reason I'm doing this compilation is because I recently watched these 3 videos and I thought they were pretty damn funny, actually, but also pretty interesting too. So hope you find this video interesting. Thanks for watching, and let's begin! Dawn of Mana. Dawn of Mana, also known as Seiken Densetsu 4 in Japan, is the 4th title in the Mana series, now developed by Square Enix after their fusion. It was released at the end of 2006 in Japan and 5 months later in 2007 in North America. This game never got a release anywhere else and it was a PS2 exclusive. The reason why no one cares about this title is because it shamefully brought the Mana series into a terrible decline, getting poor and negative reviews, mainly for its lame gameplay mechanics, straying off from a role-playing adventure which had been the core formula of previous entries in the series. In other words, it is not truly considered by many people as an action RPG, but rather as simply an adventure game, like the Legend of Zelda titles, but in a very bad sense. This game might look okay for its time, and back then it might have acquired some popularity for being the first Mana game in a full 3-dimensional world, but it was still hated and destroyed by critics. In my opinion, it is the epitome of where the fuck do I go kind of game. And that's why no one gives a damn about Dawn of Mana. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles: The Crystal Bearers. The Crystal Chronicles was never really successful to begin with. All of these Final Fantasy spin-offs have received mixed reviews, especially the first one for the GameCube with its awkward mechanics, becoming a game some people love and some people hate. The Crystal Bearers was released in 2009 in Japan and North America, and until 2010 in Europe. In its former country, it did fairly well, considering it was far different from the GameCube title, and it was a breath of fresh air into the action genre. Outside Japan, however, mixed reviews compelled its reception, but they all had one thing in common: the game lacked appeal. It was extremely forgettable, however good or bad it was, and some didn't even consider it as an action RPG anymore. There was just a lot of things to do here, and it had some really interesting mechanics, but with so many other great titles, far greater than this mediocre spin-off, nobody cared for it, so it was quickly ignored and people moved on, even into other Crystal Chronicles titles. Virtua Quest. So Virtua Quest, also released for the GameCube in 2004 in Japan and 2005 in North America, was Sega's attempt to make a spin-off from their Virtua Fighter series into an action RPG. Once again, however, it crossed the line between action RPG and simply action-adventure by incorporating RPG elements into a more action-style product. Virtua Fighter has never been as successful overseas as it was in Japan, so how was a spin-off RPG wannabe going to be a hit in the first place? Besides, it was fun, yes, but no one gave 2 shits about it, because there were hundreds of excellent action-adventure games or even action RPGs that were more deserving of anyone's attention than this unappealing mess. Actually, I've never met anyone who has deemed this game worthy of caring. I even included it in my Hidden Gems video for the GameCube and no one gave a damn. Wanna know what's worse? That version goes for around $30 to $40 nowadays. Who will pay that price for this game? Who? Tecmo: Secret of the Stars. So here's yet another game that's expensive as hell and no one wants to pay for it. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure the entire planet couldn't care less about its existence. But back then, it received positive reviews, and it was the talk of the town for a while. That is until, over the course of time, gamers began realizing about its true, deceitful nature and decided to forget about it. It's a turn-based RPG in which you manage two parties at the same time in the most boring overworld ever in the history of RPGs. You have no idea how strongly I regret including this piece of shit in my Hidden Gems video for the Super Nintendo. I thought it was cool, a really cool original game, until I kept going and grew tired of its never-ending grinding system and annoying mechanics. This is the only game in this list that is beyond mediocre. It's bad. It's just bad. Not terrible, but you know what I mean. No, wait, there's something worse. That's right, Dokapon Monster Hunter. This game was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2001, and it holds absolutely no relationship with the Monster Hunter series. Actually, this guy came before that Capcom franchise, so it held the name first. But disgracefully, it belongs to a pretty interesting series of games that had never been successful, but try to be original to some extent. This one plays like a roguelike RPG, but with battles that are turn-based, and they depend on a rock-paper-scissors mechanics with cards to decide the outcome of the battle. Difficulty spikes are a huge mess on it, and if we include its gigantic lack of appeal and highly generic plot, you will immediately stop playing this and move on to whatever the hell might be better than this piece of fuck. In fact, I could say that no one gives two shits about the entire franchise despite having some fairly fun titles in the series. I can't believe this jackass name triumphed in Japan only to meet a miserable reception overseas because no one gave a donkey's ass about any of its titles. Any of them! Okay, why don't we start with Magic Pendul: The Quest for Color. Magic Pendul is a 2002 RPG developed by Garakuda Studio and Taito, published by the latter in Japan and by H-Tech in North America. Apparently, Studio Ghibli was involved in the art and character design, but even that wasn't enough to make people give a damn about it. It combines elements from monster collecting and painting through this magic thing called the Pendul, which is actually a paintbrush. Instead of capturing monsters and training them, you create doodles to fight for you, like Ronald McDonald, for example. Yeah. The battle system follows a rock-paper-scissors idea with a turn-based mechanic. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot to do in this game, such as many different side quests. However, nothing comes remotely as interesting as any other RPGs you've ever played. The problem with this game is that it's far from being appealing since all of its mechanics have been done right before and it has nothing to stand out for. And you wanna know what's worse? There's a sequel. That's right, Graffiti Kingdom. It was also made by Taito, but published everywhere else by companies that I didn't even know existed. For example, the North American release was published by Hot Point B. What the hell is that? Anyway, the only redeemable feature this game has is that the music is composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, but even that doesn't help it from being a completely forgettable experience and a game that no one gives a crap about. Unlike Magic Pendul, this one is an action RPG with platforming elements. You can also capture creatures in this time, and instead of making paintbrush doodles, you create graffiti doodles. Huh. Another remarkable aspect, but sadly in a very negative way, is the voice acting. In both games, man does it suck.
Yeehaw! Welcome to the Wild West, son, and... dog?
I'm a lady.
All right then. Cutie Lady Pooch.
Next is Zoid's Assault on the Xbox 360. The Zoids franchise is a huge thing not only in Japan, but especially there, of course. So obviously a media franchise such as this, with toys, anime series and movies, had to have video games, right? Some of them have been okay, I think, mostly action-packed with mechs. There was an RPG I kind of liked for the Game Boy Advance called Zoid's Legacy. The one that caught my attention for this video was Zoid's Assault. It's a strategy RPG, one of the very few for the Xbox 360, and believe it or not, I didn't give two fucks about it. It's not a bad game in any way, but it's also far from being good. Not only is it mediocre and boring, but it also tends to drag on and annoy you with its repetitive mechanics. If you care enough about Zoids, then you might want to give this turd a chance, because if you don't, I suggest you move on and continue not caring about it at all. Next we've got Amazing Island. Role-playing, simulation, adventure, minigames, Pokemon. It's actually kind of fun to an extent, almost hidden gem material, but even when I called it as such on my GameCube video about hidden gems, I clearly remember having this itchy feeling that nobody would care. And I was right! No one gave a shit about it. Amazing Island is an exclusive for the GameCube, developed by Ancient and published by Sega. You know Ancient, right? The company created by music composer Yuzo Koshiro? Yep, they did this unbelievable forgettable game, one of the most generic Pokemon clones I've ever played. But just like Graffiti Kingdom, it's okay, I guess. Seriously, knowing about the existence of it will probably affect absolutely nothing in your life. And speaking about nothing, that's exactly what I have to say about this game, so let's move on. Inindo, Way of the Ninja. Inindo is a game that, judging by its cover, you'll never think it's a turn-based RPG for the Super Nintendo, released in North America and also several years later in Europe as well. It's another one of those Koei RPGs that came out for computer systems at the late 80s and then remade for the SNES. Besides being a part of the Nobunaga's Ambition universe, with a story based on a ninja during the feudal Japan period, the only interesting aspect in this game is the music. The battle system rocks! Yeah, I've said that before in previous videos because, yes, it's shocking, but I have covered this bizarre title in the past. In any case, it's a very, very small cult classic for just a handful of people, at least for the extremely minority who know about it. It's not a bad game at all, but it's just far from being the type of RPG I would enjoy playing. And as far as I'm concerned, it's just a game absolutely no one cares about. What, you didn't know there was an RPG based on the Hideo Kojima franchise, Zone of the Enders? Now you do. But somehow I get the feeling you will forget about it in a couple of days. Why, you ask? Because no one gave a damn about this game. First of all, Kojima had nothing to do with it. Second, it's a strategy RPG that's weird, boring, and completely unappealing. Konami could have done a much better job with a franchise like this, but why release it for the Game Boy Advance? Were they trying to approach the series to Nintendo players or something? Maybe they didn't want to take any risks with the PlayStation, home to previous Zone of the Enders games, and moved on to a portable system instead to try their luck with a spin-off. It's not exactly a bad game, but I just don't think it's good either. I can't talk much about it since I played it for less than an hour and ditched it. I'm not a fan of mech games, with some really small exceptions. And since I'm not a fan of all the Zone of the Enders franchise, it's no wonder I didn't care about this game, you know. Do you care about it? I know no one that does. Next is Sorcerers Kingdom. Half of the Genesis RPG library is full of mediocre titles. Opinions get in the way and some games become niche titles while others fade into obscurity. Sorcerers Kingdom is one such title that I once called a hidden gem because I thought it was okay. Well, if we're talking about the Genesis, it's not like I had much choice, right? Considering its small catalog of JRPGs, half of them being not great. Let's just leave it at that. Anyway, this is another weird-ass game with weird-ass mechanics and a weird-ass battle system that I don't even know how to properly explain. For every action you and or your party members make, even moving, your enemies do the same. Kinda like a roguelike game? But no, as you can see, it's yet another strategy RPG. But it also works sort of like a turn-based RPG at the same time, but only allowing you to move in 4 directions. Yeah, well, if that explanation is not enough, don't worry about it. I have no interest in convincing you to play this game, considering no one gives a shit about it, including me. Just forget about it. It's just not worth your time, unless you want to play a really awkward hidden gem, if I can still call it that. Yeah, you know what? Let's move on. Kingdom of Paradise on the PSP. Alright, let's continue on with an action RPG, one that's also known as Key of Heaven. Wow, strong names for an extremely forgettable game. Well, the main problem with this PSP exclusive, heavily influenced by the Asian culture, is that it was released around the same time as many other great RPGs on the system. And this game is not the only one who suffered from extreme overshadowing that time, since the PSP had RPG after RPG released. There's just a ton of them. And of course, there had to be a ton of unknown games, hidden gems, underrated titles, but also mediocre, boring, and lame-ass RPGs that no one cares about. Kingdom of Paradise, I'm not sure it's a bad game at all, but why would you play something like this when there are dozens of other great titles on the system? Nothing stands out in this game, nothing. Sure, I guess the martial arts are kinda interesting, but the story is so lacking, as are the graphics and the music. In the end, it's a mediocre title that no one cares about, not even me. Probably not even you either. But if you care about it, let me know in the comment section below. Coming right up, Master of the Monster Lair. The name of this game is enough to make you realize why I put this game on the list. Why would you name your game like this? Why? If you're a developer and you want your game to succeed, why in blazes would you name it Master of the Monster Lair? That's like the most unappealing title I've ever heard in my life. But guess what? It's not the developer's fault. It's the localization team's fault. Atlus! This game is part of the Dungeon Maker series, and actually it's called that way in Europe as well. Dungeon Maker. Yeah, well, it's just as generic as the other title. Anyway, is it good? Is it something you need to even care about? I'll let you decide. It's like an RPG for kids, although not exactly a good start, especially if you don't want them to be overwhelmed by its dungeon crawling mechanics, where you actually need to build the dungeons in order to lure the monsters and fight them. So imagine how repetitive this game is. There's micromanagement involved, as well as a story that's kinda charming, I guess, but other than that, you will be better off playing any other title on the Nintendo DS than this. I keep saying that for every game in this list, huh? Last but not least, Shadow Tower on the PS1. The reason why no one cares about these RPGs is not because they're good, bad, great, or terrible. No, it's because they have absolutely zero originality to offer. I wouldn't be surprised if I found a fan or two of these games, because it's all a matter of perspective, and I'm sure someone out there likes them. But god damn it, Shadow Tower is just something I'll be dumbfounded to know somebody likes it. If you're that person, please elaborate on the comment section. First of all, why do you even care about it? Well, I did, otherwise I wouldn't have bothered talking about it, or any other game in this list, but right after finishing this video, I stopped caring about it, or any other game in this list. Shadow Tower is an action RPG with dungeon crawling elements in first person, with barely any music, shitty graphics, lame story, and excessively boring gameplay. Have you ever suffered from insomnia? Well, this game might just be the cure for that. Play it and you'll be thankful forever to Dr. Erick Landon for recommending you the best solution to your nocturne troubles. Because trust me, you will fall asleep with this game. I guarantee it.